Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Finding Yourself with Kyle Duffy. If you're new here, welcome. I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you do, please check out the rest of my videos up on my channel. And please consider hitting like and subscribe and follow me along my YouTube and podcasting journey. I also have a podcast called Finding Yourself, which is available up on all major podcast platforms, including Spotify and Anchor FM. On my podcast, I dive deep into my passions in life, which include movie, TV, sports, gaming. So if any of this content interests you, please check out my podcast up on Spotify. And if you do enjoy the podcast, please make sure to follow it up on Spotify. That always helps me out, helps me expand my audience, because I do really love talking about movies, TV shows. I do have a deep love for cinema and TV, and I love talking about it on the podcast. So if you have a passion for anything that I talk about on Finding Yourself, make sure to follow along up on Spotify for weekly notifications of each episode. Today's video couldn't be about anything but the Oscars. Obviously, if you watched the Academy Awards last night, you'll know why. A lot happened. There was plenty of awards given out, but there was also an incident that I want to get into in this video. Before I dive into the Oscar talk, I want to mention very briefly that I got to appear on the Storytime podcast with Claire this past week. I got to appear on her podcast and tell my story about my journey through disability, learning to live an independent life, and learning to adapt to a life with a disability and not letting it hold me back. I have talked about my disability on my podcast Finding Yourself before, so if you want to check out episodes about that, I do have one episode in particular about my disability, how I learned to adapt to a life with a disability, how I learned to not let it hold me back and live a more independent life that I'm happy with. So if you want to check out that episode, it's available to listen to up on Spotify and Anchor FM. But in terms of telling my story on other platforms besides my own, I've never done it. So that was a very proud moment for me, because I do want to be an advocate for people with disabilities. I do want to let people know who might be going through the same kind of journey I went through, that you're not alone and that it is possible to get to a place in life where you can be happy. So make sure to keep an eye out on the Storytime podcast YouTube channel to make sure you can watch that video when it comes out. I was told I'm going to get a notification when my episode is being uploaded, so I'll let you know up on Twitter once you can check it out up on Spotify and YouTube. And if you haven't done it already, make sure to go and follow Claire on YouTube and follow her podcast Storytime as well. She's a very talented YouTuber and content creator. I love her vlogs, especially her Corona vlogs and her Christmas vlogs. So if you haven't checked out Claire on YouTube, please take this as your sign to do so. Okay, now that I got my shameless plug out of the way, let's get into the Oscars. First off, I have to hold my hands up. I thought The Power of the Dog would absolutely sweep this year's Oscars. It didn't, but it did win Best Director in both the BAFTAs and the Oscars, which I'm very happy about because that film was excellent in my opinion. It was such a great watch. I just thought it would be recognised for its performances and actors as well. I was damn near sure that Benedict Cumberbatch was going to win Best Lead Actor, and I would have thought it was a number one contender for Best Film. Before I give my thoughts and opinions on this year's Academy Award winners, I want to talk about the predictions I got right on the lead up to the ceremony. There wasn't many. I think there was one or two that I predicted right, but I want to talk about those before I talk about the winners. First off, I predicted that Best Costume Design would go to Cruella. I think everyone could see that coming a mile away. If you haven't actually seen Cruella yet, go and watch the movie and you'll understand why it won Best Costume Design for this year's Oscars. The costumes were amazing, they were out of this world, and as a man watching the movie, I wouldn't have any heat on costumes, but you can't help but notice it, and they're so extravagant and they're so in your face that just added to the character of Cruella in the movie. It was a big defining characteristic of her character at some points. So I could only see that going one way with costume design, and I was right in that regard. I also had a prediction that Dune would win Best Cinematography, which it did, along with Best Production Design, Best Sound, Best Original Score, and Best Film Editing. So that movie absolutely swept the Oscars, which the contributors have to be very happy about. But yeah, I think I only got 2 right for this year's Oscars, and I've been trying to watch all the movies that were nominated for Best Film, and I was trying to make sure that I knew as much about them as I could, but I didn't get around to all of them. So maybe if I did get around to watching all those movies, I would have had better predictions for the Oscars. But now let's get into the actual winners of the Oscars, because I have a few thoughts. First off, I want to talk about Coda winning Best Film and Best Supporting Actor. Again, this is one of the films that I didn't put up very high in my predictions. I hadn't seen the movie, I didn't know much about it. I was unaware of who was in it or what it was about, and I think that went into my process of predicting this year's Oscars. Again, I wanted to go see all the movies that were up for Best Film. I didn't get the chance to. I got to see some of them, including Power of the Dog, Don't Look Up, but I didn't get to go see King Richard or Coda, and I think that's why I wasn't touting Will Smith to win Best Actor. I wasn't touting Coda to win anything but maybe original screenplay. I think in the BAFTAs it won original screenplay if I'm not mistaken, but overall I didn't expect it to do anywhere near as well as it did in this year's Oscars. Again, winning Best Film and Best Supporting Actor, you're doing something right. So going forward, I do want to go see that movie. I want to talk about it on here and on radio and give it a proper review. Especially after learning that it's an all-deaf cast in Coda, makes it that much more unique of a movie. Never knew that before, so I have to go check that out. I'm just looking over the Academy Award winners here, and there's actually a couple of more predictions I got right. I think I predicted Jane Campion to win Best Director, and I also predicted Encanto to win Best Animated Film. So 4 predictions right, not too bad. Ariana DeBose winning Best Supporting Actress for her role in West Side Story, as well as that Jessica Chastain winning Best Actress for her role in The Eyes of Tammy Faye. When I was doing research for this video, I saw Ariana DeBose's picture and I didn't know where I knew her from. I recognized her face and I couldn't put my finger on it. And then I realized that she's in Hamilton as well. I think I didn't recognize her straight away because she wasn't one of the main actresses, but I knew I could recognize her face from somewhere. I thought that Jessica Chastain's acceptance speech was very heartwarming. She's obviously lost someone to suicide very recently, and she kind of gave a very heartfelt speech around suicide rates with the pandemic in the LGBTQ community. And as well as that, I think she touched on some existing legislation that is very discriminating against that community as well. Kenneth Branagh winning Best Original Screenplay for his movie Belfast was a big achievement. Oscar for Best Original Song went to Billie Eilish for No Time to Die. And as someone who did go to see No Time to Die in the cinema, I do think that Oscar is well deserved. I really enjoyed the soundtrack in the James Bond movie, but let me know your thoughts. Okay, the time I've been waiting for and the time you've been waiting for. Let's talk about Will Smith. Not because he won Best Actor, I already mentioned that, we know that, but because he slapped the shit out of Chris Rock. Okay, let's unpack this. For anyone who hasn't seen it yet, I don't know how you haven't because it's everywhere, but if you haven't, here's a rundown. We've gotten to the point in the Oscars where Chris Rock is doing a monologue, he's doing a bit of presenting, and he's basically doing a few jokes. He's taking the piss out of everyone, and he focuses his attention on Jada Pinkett Smith and Will Smith. He makes a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith being in G.I. Jane 2 and says he can't wait to see it. It's after this that Will Smith gets up out of his seat, walks on stage, laughing as he does so, and Chris Rock sees this. He acknowledges it in the microphone and says, "Oh, look who's coming." It is then Will Smith cocks back and smacks Chris Rock so hard it looks like such a big smack, and then sits back down. At this stage it looks like Chris Rock is stunned and gobsmacked and tries to play it off. But while Chris Rock is trying to play down the situation and move on because it is such a weird thing to happen out of the blue, I think people thought it was a sketch and people were laughing, but the seriousness came out when Will Smith shouted out, "Keep my wife's name out of your fucking mouth." He said this twice and he shouted it twice, and you could see Chris Rock react the second time and just said, "Okay, I will," and tried to move on with his monologue. After this portion of the show, we come to the Best Actor Award, which Will Smith wins. He goes up, accepts his award, and then apologizes to the Academy for his actions. Not to Chris Rock, to the Academy. He says he hopes he's allowed back, and then he talks about the strength of the character he played in Richard Williams and how he protected his family no matter what. He was a defender of his family. Will Smith did all of this with tears in his eyes. In my opinion, I think he was crying for 2 reasons. 1, he was trying to remind us that he is a good guy and manipulate us in that way. And 2, because he knows he fucked up. He's never going to be back at the Oscars again, and he'd be lucky if he is. Obviously, people will be talking about this slap for a while to come. It's one of the more iconic Oscar moments that has ever happened. My opinion, absolutely disgusting, irremissible, totally pathetic, and a trait of toxic masculinity I've never seen from Will Smith in the public eye. When it comes to the slap, my thoughts are pretty clear cut. First of all, it's comedy, and in comedy, I think you can't take anything seriously, no matter what's being talked about. Second of all, Chris Rock is there to do a job like the other hosts, and part of his job as a comedian is to rip the piss out of people. So take it on the chin and grow the fuck up. And lastly, I don't care how famous you don't have the right to do what Will Smith did. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comment section below. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. This has been Finding Yourself with Kyle Duffy. Thanks for listening.